Hi, this is Lee Furseth from the Headwater Science Center. In Bemidji, and today you're going to be watching...
Here we are again for one of our 3:30 Headwater Science Center.
Let me start again. Lee Furseth from the Headwater Science Center, and today you're watching a 3:30 show done by James Owens. He's on our screen right now, and he did the show about 3 weeks ago. It's all about Newton's laws. He's going to work his way all the way through three laws, and I'm going to watch right along with you. If you're interested in sending a comment, feel free to do that in the chat room, or if you have a question, go ahead and send it. If I don't know the answer to your question, I'll see what I can do to find out the answer before this watch party is completed. James's presentation, like I say, he did about 3 weeks ago, is 28 minutes in length. So here he goes on Newton's law number 1.
Science and lightning events. So I thought about what to do this week, and I came up with one of my favorite scientists, one of the more famous ones too as well. And that's Sir Isaac Newton, and most famous for his laws of motion. And it's impossible to be an animal or anything moving on Earth or in this universe and to not be associated with these sorts of laws of motion. So we're going to go through them today. We're going to look at them, and we're going to see how that works. Now, so that we can have a little fun with that, you might see I rated my toy box, and we'll see how much of those things are actually in the actions of our game. So this is a model of the Earth going around and around and around. If we have an audience out there, maybe you can answer some of these questions. What am I? Again and again it goes around, and every time it goes around, we put another candle on the cake. We call it a year. 4 seasons have gone by here in the Northwoods. And so, if this is the Earth, then I am the sun. The sun, of course. And a lot of it, when I was younger, I wondered, how does that thing keep going? Why does that thing keep going? And we're going to hopefully look into that, why and how, right now. So, the first law that Newton came up with, and Ryan and I were having a conversation before we started about how these laws are beautifully poetic, and part of the reason why we like them is because of that. The Earth keeps going because it is going. In other words, according to Newton, inertia keeps it going. Things in motion stay in motion until another force acts upon them and changes them. Well, that happens with Earths. Ryan, shoot down here. That happens with bowling balls. Bowling balls in motion tend to stay in motion. It looks like I have a fielder over there, so I'm going to send it off that way. And bowling balls aren't nearly as heavy as Earths are. You still hear that ball rolling? That ball can keep right on going all the way to the fence over there. So if you can set it down, or you can try to shoot us right over there. Keep that happening. So things in motion tend to stay in motion. And so let's look at that. I mean, it didn't only affect the toy box, but it affected the 12th and 13th century armaments. Now we're not going to use that one. We're going to use one that's a lot more fun. Oh, wait a minute. Ryan's saying, give me that look. And I'm going to send this one here out towards him. So this is the most famous catapult. This changed how the world's geography went, because if you had one of these, you could fill it up with stones, maybe put a dead horse in there. You could throw the enemy at itself, maybe a burning barrel of oil, or bees. And you'd send that off, crashing down the castle walls, and in so doing, you might allow your troops to enter in. Now, these things were built on site. And if you were a marauding army, you'd cut down some trees, you'd bring this twine, which was your most important part, and you'd build this on site, perhaps. And you would have this. You're going to adjust my trajectory a little bit right to there. Oh, it almost gets it. To knock down a weak spot in the castle wall. And that was always a way to change things about. Well, this notion of inertia actually has 2 parts. Let me turn this on. And we're going to see if we can look at that in another way. And that is, not only do things in motion tend to stay in motion, but things at rest tend to stay at rest. And let's see if we can't figure out a fun way to show that. Minnie's the person who's tried this and done it other ways and seen it. I don't want to stand up there. I'm an unbalanced man here. All right, that should work. If it doesn't work, well, then we'll deal with that then. So we're going to have the mighty Mopar pull out this rug from underneath the egg, and you predict it if you want. Now I'm going to get back here and catch it because I really don't want it to crash on the floor and let another one of Newton's ideas come to bear on it. So let's full speed ahead this thing, and of course the egg stays behind. It works a lot of the time. Some of you say, oh, you got lucky. Well, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. And maybe that egg is down there and I'm not reaching in. But I will try it again because maybe there's a few doubters out there or true scientists that say, well, do it once, maybe. Do it again and again and again and again. And this time we've got the chance we could hit the egg, so that could be more fun anyways. And we'll see if it's so. So full speed ahead, egg goes down. So things at rest tend to stay at rest until another force acts upon them, and this pulling out of the magic carpet, and that were not enough to make that come along. So that stayed behind. All right, let's keep looking here. Let's move on to the second model. This is the one that's got a little bit of mathematics in it, but it's really a good one too. Pull it out a little bit, and it also helps us understand this system that we're all a part of, whether we like it or not, and that's the gravitational system that we are always a part of. So if I drop these two balls at the same time, which one strikes the floor first?
Great time to pause because you can think about the answer. Two balls, different weights, different sizes. Which one's going to hit the floor first? Spend 10 seconds thinking about it, and we'll turn them back on. All right, you got somebody listening right next to you. Go ahead and tell them your answer. Here comes James, and we will try it out.
Anybody venturing an answer? How about our home team here? Throw it out there. All you can do is be wrong. That's how we built it.
Gonna hit first.
The basketball hits first.
I think the racquetball will.
Okay, well, I'm going to try my best. Hold me honest to see which one. And sometimes, and this I like to remind people of, our eye is actually not as fast as our ear is. Our ear can hear faster than our eye can see. So let's do it. And I'm dropping them at the same point because the bottom and the bottom equal, the middle would have further to travel if I dropped them from the middle. Pretty close, pretty close. But so the truth of the matter is they fall at the same rate. And one of the first experiments that was done on the moon when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin go up there was take a hammer and a feather and drop them both. And on the moon, with how much atmosphere to interfere, indeed, they fell at the same rate. But let's move with Newton. Now, Newton says that force is mass times acceleration. Now, this one is more massive. Okay, so which one has more energy when it strikes the floor? Now the answer, the basketball. Well, that's one thing to say. It's another thing to try and prove. Let's see if we can't do that in an easy way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop both of these balls, and when this hits the floor, it's going to send its energy into this ball, and we'll see what happens. I might need a field run on this one.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. That was relatively interesting. Let's try it the other way. So I'm going to drop them with this ball on top of that ball, and it's going to hit the floor and move its energy to this ball. Let's see if that's a different story. Okay, so we're knocking a little bit of the ceiling down here because it did have quite a lot more energy to give that ball than it did the basketball. So I'm going to have to say that this, given this.
Another great time to pause. You could try this at home. Basketball, racquetball. If you're trying it in the house, you want to make sure that nothing breaks. But this would be a great time for you to give it a try. Better yet would be outside on your sidewalk or maybe on the apron to your garage. We're going to back it up and take another look. Watch him do that again. Here we go.
To this ball, and we'll see what happens. I might need a fielder on this one.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay, that was relatively interesting. Let's try it the other way. So I'm going to drop them with this ball on top of that ball, and it's going to hit the floor and move its energy to this ball. Let's see if that's a different story. Okay, so we're knocking a little bit of the ceiling down here because it did have quite a lot more energy to give that ball than it did the basketball. So I'm going to have to say that this, given its superior mass, has more force when it strikes. Now the acceleration was constant, we thought we proved, which is the acceleration of mass due to gravity. Now, gravity is a cruel master, but it's fair. It's fair in this way. Well, let's look at some numbers. I wanted to show you this. Now, some people confuse gravity with magnetism. Now, this is not gravity. This is magnetism. It can be used as a metaphor, but it's not really anything the same. What, in fact, is gravity? And short of a universal theory of gravity, I'm going to tell you what works intellectually and what works actually. So the truth is, mass attracts mass, and it's actually working in every direction on you. It's just that the most of the mass, or in my local part of the universe, is beneath me. Whether I'm on the second floor or out there on the ground, I'm being accelerated towards the center of the earth. But I'm also being accelerated towards a lever over here, towards the ceiling, over to the wall, but the main amount is straight down. And so the more massive I am, given the earth is constant, the more force downward there will be pulled upon me. So there's a curious phenomenon here. If you go down into a deep mine, you'll actually lighten because you'll have mass above you, maybe half a mile of rock above you, and then the rest of the earth beneath you. So you'll actually be somewhat accelerated in two directions. Now, we all know this. One of the things to bring us back to the moon, we realized that the lads on the moon were able to jump up, much higher than they could on Earth because the moon is less massive than the Earth, and so they were relatively lighter up there. So they were about weighed about a sixth as much as they do on Earth, and so having the strength of Earthlings, they were able to bound about, put golf balls way out into the horizon, and do some fun things. I'm always amazed that we spend millions. It gives me hope and spirit and the idea that, yeah, you do the fun stuff because it shows your point. So one more planet I'll mention, and this one kind of confounds people a little bit. What if I went to Jupiter? How would I be, which is the hugest planet? Some people say it's a failed star. I would be lighter or heavier? It's kind of a trick question, but it's not too tricky.
Jupiter is more voluminous than Earth, but it's also
more voluminous, but it's also made of different material. So you would actually be twice as heavy, but it's way much more than twice as voluminous. All right. Good point. Our cast figured that one out if the audience didn't. All right. Let's see here. What were we going to show you? We showed you the force. Let's look at this one. Now this had to do with mass and force again. And you can see by now that I like to ask tricky questions because we actually live in a tricky universe. And so because of that, I got this little tricky gadget, and we're going to see if we can figure something out. Don't trust my questions because most of them are tricks. Okay, so I'm going to put this ball on here. This is a specialized ball that has a hole on it in it, and when this spring-loaded rod flies this way, it'll drop that ball straight down. Meanwhile, it'll shoot this one out that way. This is a little bit of a ballistics trick, and we're going to have the same question again. Which one strikes the floor first? Put it out to the audience in the electronic world first.
Which one strikes the floor first? Go ahead, tell the person next to you. Think about it. Then we'll watch them. All right, here we go.
Short of an answer.
I think the one on the right is drop.
That'll drop first because all it has to do is go straight down, whereas this one has to go out and down. Okay, well, let's try this. Let's see. Ryan got that look on his face, so we're not going to ask him. Again, watch with your eyes if you can, if Ryan gets a shot, but listen with your ears. And now I'm going to put it on the first setting, and next time we'll try it on the... What did the ear say? I didn't even get to see it. The ear said it was pretty close. How about your ear?
Pretty close.
Pretty close. Let's try it on a higher setting, a springier low, if you will. All the way is, give it all she's got. It should, let's see, I gotta put that out here on this one because that'll have to go further too. Will that be the setting? No, it'll have to be out here. Let's be right there. See, I have to make sure it hits the same time it knocks that off. I think I have to go to here. Okay, so put it out there. Again, it should shoot out further and have even more arc to make. Okay? Okay, let's try it again. Listen. Remember, your ear hears much faster than your eye can see. Pretty close again, right? So, why? It definitely had further to go because, and those of you who've had some ballistics training understand what happens. Even though it's moving this way, it is still accelerating downward at the same rate as the ball that just falls straight downward. If you fire a gun, we didn't bring any guns today, we wouldn't be able to see them if we did with this camera setup. The bullet leaves the end of the barrel, it starts to fall, but it's going so fast that it strikes its target often before it hits the ground. And that's why you sight your rifle in such a manner that you're actually aiming a little bit higher so that when it gets there, it's where you think you're going to shoot at straight. Yeah. All right, we did that. We looked at that. Any questions?
So,
Oh, we're getting a question.
personal question actually.
Okay.
From me is, we talk about how they fall at the same rate, but this is only in a vacuum that they would actually fall.
Right, but in this environment, this vacuum isn't a big effect. Okay, hope that answered it. I won't give me more.
So technically, the one that doesn't have the hole drilled in it would probably fall a little bit faster because it's heavier and going to go through the air resistance a little bit quicker, right?
Well, I don't know. Feel them. They feel about the same weight. They're close.
Yeah.
They're pretty close.
I assume they were the same weight ball at one point. This one had a hole bored into it to...
Well, it could have been made of heavier metal. So if the set was made well, they're pretty close. And you know what? That's really not going to be a big factor out here. It's just not. Let's try it. Well, I don't know. It's just, granted, a lot of this stuff is theoretical and it should be in a vacuum, but if we're shooting feathers out here, we need the vacuum. But with steel balls, we can go through this air pretty evenly. But you're right, there is air resistance, and there are heat factors. There are other things that we have to calculate to get to the exactitude of what we're looking for here. Let's go to our next one. Now, in some ways, this one has more toys built for it than anything. And this is the idea that forces come in pairs. Now, for every action in the universe, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And that's not just every forces like this, it's every force. When I sit down on this chair, I put an amount of force downward that has to be met. It has to push up at least the same amount as I push down, or I'm going down. Okay, so if the chair can't handle it, the floor will. If the floor can't handle it, the earth can. So that's that point. But we're talking about every force that comes in pairs. When a hair grows out of your head this way, it also exerts a force inward. They always come in pairs. And let's look at one of those. This idea that I'll put a force onto here, and that will go flying there. Let's look at this other idea in another way. With the Newton's cradle. Bona fide science toy, and a fun way to look at this idea. Now, this not only helps us understand this idea that forces are equal and come in pairs, which they are doing there, but the idea that energy is conserved. Because what happens here is this ball strikes that steel ball, which sends its energy to that steel ball, sending its energy to that steel ball, which makes that one go outward. And they should be, we call them.
Another great place to pause, because if you have one of these in your home, go get it. Get it out onto a table. Do this right along with James. He's going to ask you a series of questions, and you would want to guess in advance. How are the balls going to act in this Newton's cradle? Let's check it out.
Calm it down about the same. Giving their energy back and forth. You can see some play in here, but that's just part of this system. Let's try two. See what happens. Let's see if I can get my fingers in there. Predictions. To have twice the force. To have the continuing energy. Of course, it's a pendulum, and it's moving back and forth, essentially going uphill and retaining some of its energy, but there's a loss here. Eventually this thing will stop. There will have to be paid for energy. What's the energy price here? The sound, the heat. In this universe with physics, you always have to pay your energy bill. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this universe. Are they saying try 3, Ryan?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got the... Come here, you help me do this.
Are they saying try 3? That meant on the day that he filmed this, there were people who were watching, whether on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitch TV, and they were saying, let's see what 3 does. So James is going to do 3. Now he says to himself that his fingers are too big. He can't get them all the way through to get 3 of the balls. So he's calling an assistant to come over and asks her, go ahead and try 3. So if you got a Newton's cradle at home, go ahead, try 3. Let's see how it works out.
You've got trimmer fingers. Pull 3 back. My fingers are fat. Pull 3 back. Try to release them cleanly. Pull it back. Pull it good and back. Yeah, you're gonna do it. It's hard, isn't it?
It's hard to like get them even.
Yeah, I know. I'll hold it for you. How about that? It'll help.
Okay.
Just try and bring 3 back. We'll settle them down. Okay. Oh, is it following the concept though? Yeah, it is. It is, and so it's showing. Well, this is Newton's cradle is a fun toy to show these.
Honestly, not how I expected that to work.
It's a little surprising sometimes because we make up our mind on the.
I thought, I thought it would bump the 2, and then when the 2 came back, we'd only bump 2 going the other way.
But it had the energy of 3,
But
so
yeah,
it held that energy, and it lost the energy on the pendulum, and eventually this will calm to a still. But all right, now we're going to do one more thing here. And this is something that all moms love. You can try this at home, moms. If you want to do this and show your kids that you're cool, do it. Kids, if you want to show your moms that you're smart, do it. Dads, if you're home watching us do this, you do it too. What we're going to do is put this challenge forth. We're going to make a potential mess, because after all, I have to clean up the mess, and you don't. So I'm going to put that egg on there. These are fresh US eggs. I've used rotten ones before, and I'll never do it again. All right, there's the challenge I'll make for myself. First, I'm going to pose it to you. Let me straighten this up, give myself at least a fair shot. How, knowing what we know now, utilizing Newton's laws, how are we going to make, let's help ourselves out a little. These 3 eggs end up in those 3 beakers using this broom. The audience giving us any ideas?
In a few seconds.
Go ahead. See if you can answer the question. Yes, he's going to illustrate the fact that you could whack all 3 with the broom handle. I'm hoping that if that's the way you try it, you're ready to do some cleanup. And yes, he's using fresh eggs. They are not hard-boiled eggs, which would have been a much more cowardly way to go about doing this. These are fresh eggs. So take a look. He's going to suggest some, and then you're going to see how he gets those eggs into the beakers.
It's behind, so
They're lagging.
we got maybe 20 seconds between when you
Oh,
say
but
it
20
and
seconds
before
between
they actually see it.
Well, since spring training just started, I will say the answer. I'm not going to do it this way. I could do it by whacking that thing just right. No, I'm not. Training just begun. Ryan, you're actually going to be in the firing zone.
Okay.
So while you can look at it here, you might want to not be where that is, because this system's going that way.
Yeah.
Now, I did practice something earlier. I keep that in my pocket. I had a string that I used. Are we getting any answers for them yet?
Yeah.
I did practice one where I tied a string to here and was able to do it. Yeah, there we go. Get a side shot, because it's going. The system is going that way. Anybody have an answer for us yet?
It's the baseball swing, but
The baseball swing could work, but if I miss, boink, I'm going to break the glass. I go high, there's eggs all over everyone's face. I'm not practiced on that one. And again, spring training just began, so that's not ready till midsummer, when I get my batting average back up around 300. Any other ideas? Well, there's the idea of a lever, and on a lever, the further out from the edge you go, the faster it moves. And I can actually turn this broom into a fast-moving lever like this. And if I smack this just right, we'll get all 3 of Newton's laws working in our favor. And then we'll get inertia, which we've already seen will hold the eggs in place. Gravity, which will pull them down. And an opposite reaction from the broom. Now, this is potentially messy. This is likely to work if everything goes well, but it's an imperfect universe at best. So here's the bargain I make. If I make one of these eggs out of the 3, give me one of these. Little finger clap. If I make 2 of these eggs out of the 3, give me a okay. If I make all 3, I want a standing ovation. Standing ovation. I ask for nothing more than that.
I'm sitting down, so I can do it.
Okay. So, give me a count back and I'll send this thing going.
3, 2.
Just want to remind you the Science Center is open Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. Isn't this quite the tease? I stopped it just before he got to the countdown. We're open Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. Now on Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays, it's 9:30 to 5:30. And on Sundays, it's 1 o'clock to 5:30. What are we doing on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays? We're doing group. So if you represent a group, whether you're a teacher and you want to bring your class, or you're a scout leader and you want to bring your scouts, or hey, if you put together a neighborhood party and you'd like to bring that whole group, as long as your group is 10 or larger, give us a call and we will schedule a group that comes. Now, we are still going to do some of those guidelines from the CDC and from our own Minnesota Health Department, but we could put together that field trip for you, or that group trip for you. It could include a demo as well. Now, I bet you're sitting there going, come on, start the video again, because I do want to see if he breaks all those eggs. So here we are. We're going to go back to the video. Hope you've enjoyed today's 3:30 show.
2, 1. I missed. All right, in the imperfect universe, I'm going to angle the broom this way. I wasn't ready either, was I? All right, here we go. This one should hit it. All right, I see what I got to do now. All right, are we ready? Count back from 5. Maybe that was my problem.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All 3 eggs.
And again, thanks for watching today. This was our 3:30 show. James Owens, about 3 weeks ago when he did this entire show for you. All of Newton's laws of motion were on the show for today.
Drop down into there with the broom. You're welcome. That's our 3:30 show for today. Come join us again tomorrow. What do we got tomorrow, Ryan? We got it figured out yet? We don't know. We'll have a good one. We know it's a good one.
Thank you.